harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zymet.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Beverly Zymet Show, where being that best you keeps getting easier. My guest today, calling in from Las Vegas, is a very dear friend of mine, Nicole Borghi. We've known each other now 4 or 5 years. Oh my gosh, it's just been crazy. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's so great to be here with you again. It's great coming and flying with you through the universe and the cosmos, just gliding around.
And that's kind of, what it's all about, I can remember when I first met you, here's this timid little girl, right? And she's like, oh, I don't think I can do that. Yes, you can. I can? Yeah, right? And we just kind of started talking and just started really moving stuff out of the way that could help you really discover what your abilities were, Nicole, and where you can take them. And you have just turned into this blossom of this beautiful flower that, was so timid before that she was not going to help anybody. She didn't know how to do this stuff, and she was questioning herself, always in doubt, to now having her own show. She's just, I'm so proud of where you've come, because you just keep taking these huge, giant steps. I mean, this girl goes. She doesn't take little steps. When you get her finally moving, she just keeps on running and jumping and trying new things. And you make me proud. You really do.
Thank you. It's like I'm coming at you like an avalanche now, but just an avalanche of fun. It's it's just, and I was slow to start because I was healing myself and I was healing my soul, and there was just so many layers, and you looked right through it, and I went, because opportunity knocks, and she doesn't just knock once, she knocks several times, and you've got to open that door. You've at least got to look through that peephole and be like, okay, what's this going on? And I'm cautious, and I've been working on my throat chakra. What do I say? What's my truth? I want to tell people who I am and my story and listen to their story. But it was just so hard for me to figure out how to say it, how to articulate it to a point where people could be conscious with it and communicate and understand what I was trying to say.
Right.
Instead of forcing it on them. And I was used to just, okay, here's my story. I'm going to throw it at you. You better, get ready, brace yourself, because here it comes. and I learned that I didn't really want to kind of vomit it up on people and just, say what I had to say. I didn't want to be not literally hacking people, but just kind of shaking them like, listen to me. I just wanted to be heard. And You gave me that platform to do that. And I'm kind of the turtle in the race with the tortoise and the hare, where I'm just going slow and I'm watching, I'm doing research, and I've got research coming out of my ears, and I'm like, okay, what about this? And what about that? And what's the science on this? And what's the study on this say? And, coming back into the energy field, it's different now. You have a different platform, and it's the way that I don't want to be an imposter, and I don't want to be somebody else.
Right.
I want to be me. And I want to know what that me is. And it's kind of finding your why on who are you? What do you represent? How are you going to get there? And you gave me that beautiful platform to do that. And now I have my own show on Thursdays on Oneness Talk Radio.
I know. That's
I go
amazing.
live.
Woo, she goes live. Stay tuned, because she actually invited me on her show. How privileged am I, right?
Yes. On the 20th, we are going live at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we'll be talking, just like today, we'll be talking about energy and frequency and, maybe a little astral travel, just to get people to understand, where you're at right now and what you're moving towards, what the energies are, and how to just kind of ride that wave, get on your broomstick and fly with it.
There you go.
Going against it.
and I know our women out here in the audience, they can relate to that, right? Like, just get on that broom and fly, And if you can't find the broom, you know what? Just fly anyway, right? And we look at the way the world is set up today, where whew, all this nightmare that's going on, and it's like, how can I succeed here? How can I shift? How can I get resourceful? How can I be me? What can I do? Because we've been so confined, shall we say, right? And held back, and being inundated with all kinds of fears, and where's the conflict inside of yourself? Where's your belief? And you don't know what to do. You don't know where to go. And you'd mentioned earlier, this awakening time, this is the time to really find what's going on inside yourself. I had a guest on that mentioned something to me in his talk that just stuck with me so deeply, and that was the hardest and longest journey you will ever take is from your mind to your heart. From your mind to your heart.
That's a long walk.
So when you, well, it's only like, what, 6 inches, right? Oh my gosh. It really struck me, and it's so true. Because our mind is where our thinking process goes and dumps that thought into the brain. And then the brain says, all this database that it knows, it starts saying, what are you putting in me? And then it starts filtering through everything that you've learned through all your life, right? And just raising all kinds of havoc in the brain, which then wreaks havoc in the spirit of who you are. And you find yourself in this inner conflict. And it's like, how do I get past that? How do I work through that? And now being isolated and having, so we say, excess time, or time that's not being taken up from other things we used to do, is it really time now to search inward and say, how can I become that better me? How can I overcome some of this stuff I didn't even know was there? So you're finding people are getting to be more anxious being locked up. They're getting nervous. Their fear levels are going off the charts, and it's like, you're being inundated with zoom this and that and everything else, right? But where do you really go to get that hand up, to get that direction? So Nicole, the things that you're teaching now, and the things that I've been teaching for the last 45 years are so relevant in this time in history. Share with the audience why you feel this important, and why you decided that, hey, now really is your time to be out there. Like you said, open that throat, chakra, that energy port, to be able to really be that expression of you, to speak your story, to speak your truth, and help others maybe understand that they're not really alone, even when they feel and have been isolated. Can you share some of that with our audience to help them maybe kind of get pointed in a better direction?
Oh, absolutely. And I laugh because I know how deep it is, and I know how hard it is. And I've learned to be able to laugh and say, oh my gosh, that was me. Who was that person? When you kind of detach and you look outside and you're like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? And it's like, wow, somebody had to rescue me out of there, just pick me up and just take me out of that kind of garbage heap.
Right.
It just hurt deep down inside. It was, mental issues, situational issues, and they just built upon one another. And it was that depth of that inner child, of the shadow of understanding, why was I feeling that I wasn't enough? Why did I feel like I was an imposter, that no matter how many certificates or college education or training and education I had, that I just wasn't enough, that I was in that imposter mode? And being able to share with people getting out of that. I mean, I had been in the depression, the sadness, the anger. I had worn that like a sleeve, like a suit. I had been in the alcohol, I had been into the, hey, the boys or smoking or whatever it was, and realizing, you know, there is something else, but what is the something else?
Right.
And I was tired of jumping on somebody else's train and taking a ride and listening to the anger, because when you hurt, you need somebody else that hurts, and you pull them along with you, or you just ride along. And I had thought that, okay, I am comfortable where I'm at, I accept where I was from, so that was enough. But I didn't really accept it. I fought against it all the time. And I want to share with people how to get out of that. It's not just the tools uh, for frequency, it's really about continually to stay in the frequency and bringing the frequency, your vibration up higher. Not just the tools, and I love the crystals and I love the cards, the oracle cards or the tarot, the psychic reading or Reiki energy or crystal Reiki. You name the modality, there's energy. We all have that energy, that chi or the kundalini within us. Uh, but to keep it in a truth, and to clear and peel those kind of layers of the onion, and get to the depth and understanding it. But teaching people to really nurse it,
Right.
to find that inner child and to say, you know what, here's where you're at, and I'm going to love you where you're at. And I'm going to love the pain that you have and feel that emotion. And I think that's what so many of us right now are feeling, that fear and feeling
Right.
that emotion for the first time. And we're battling ourselves. And it's either, what's the polarity on that fear? Is it joy and happiness? But I want to feel the fear. And trust me, I know, battling physically and mentally with that fear and throwing it on somebody else, or turning it on someone else and saying, hey, you're the problem, when you really got to look in the mirror and be like, okay, you're the problem, but what is that problem? And it's okay to say that you have a problem, but
Right.
let's not stay in the victim. Let's not stay in the survivor mode, because it's tiring. Let's not stay in the fighter mode. And I always go back to Sun Tzu: prepare for the battle and understand your enemy. And for me, it's recognizing what my enemy was, me,
Right.
and what was that battle. So now mentally, I have to prepare for the battle of fighting myself and my subconscious to get to my heart, and saying, okay, I need to get from point A to point B. Okay, so you measure it out, here it is on the graph, here's the math, here's the geometry of it. I got that. But
Right.
once you start walking that walk and cutting it out, and really opening that heart up, and getting deep inside and recognizing the emotion. Our heart is so much like our brain, and we really think with our heart. When our heart is damaged, we close that off, and we
Right.
just want to use our brain. And it's that survivor mode in our root chakra, where we got to survive. We've got to root down with our family and survive all the time. And it gets trashed because we're not speaking our truth, and you're kind of between your throat chakra and your root, and you're just compiling and compounding it.
Right.
And I learned, why I had the pain or the illnesses that I had, because I wasn't in my divine feminine, which that lion's gate is opening up, and that energy is there. And if we don't recognize where our fear's at, um, you know, the greater cabal, or whatever you want to call it, is going to feed off that energy, kind of like Monsters Inc., where they fed off that fear from the little kids all the time when they were
Right.
scaring them, right? They were coming out of the closet and feeding off that fear. And that's so the truth where we're at right now. Um, Really, it's feeding off the joy. And if you're not at the joy, why aren't you at the joy? And how do you get there? Because
Right.
the energy's there, and it's quick right now, and it's rapid. And that's where I started to recognize too, is once I got past it needs to take a long time, or you need to have it this specific way. um, it doesn't really work that way. It works, it's kind of a cycle. You got to kind of try it out, put it on, use the sage, use the palo santo, use the crystals. But why are you doing it? You're really doing it to use it as a conduit for the energy that you're amplifying, and you want that positive energy. But it's only going to work for so much for so long, where you really need to get in the crux of it and be like, okay, let's identify it. Let's move forward. It takes more than a day. It may take several weeks. It may take a series of sessions, but it's really focusing on what is that you need to clear out and clean up.
Well, and one thing too that we have to remember is it took a lifetime to get to where we are in the moment.
Yes.
It doesn't have to take another lifetime to get beyond it, right?
No.
But you have to start somewhere. You have to really be committed to yourself, to being that better you. It's not that you're broken, you're not. It's just that there's stuff that got in the way that kind of puts you blind to the spirit and the beauty and the essence of who you are. We just need to start moving it away. And you mentioned something too, Nicole, which is really important, that it's small steps at a time. You know, when you start making those small steps, you start seeing the difference, you start feeling the difference. You're like, it almost gets addictive, right? It's like, I want more, I want more, I want more. And sometimes you can kind of put yourself in overload of clearing, and then all of a sudden it knocks you down, and you're saying, oh my gosh, what the heck happened to me? I'm like exhausted. Because you have to remember the energy out here is intensified, whether it's positive charged or negative charged, right? And then all of a sudden you're removing a whole bunch inside of you. You know, it's like, whoa. You know, it takes a while for the physical body to catch up with the mental and the emotional, you know, and the spiritual energy activity and shifting, you know. So, yeah, it's okay. Sometimes you're a glutton. I mean, I'm guilty. I was like, I was on this ride, and I'm telling you, I was going fast speed ahead, and when I crashed and burned more than once, and it's like, okay, I'm down here, okay, take a breath. It's like, okay, but I gotta keep going. This isn't an option, right? I push myself. But I'm kind of on the extreme with that. But that was who I am. It's like I lost too much time, you know, thinking that it was everybody else's fault. Oh my gosh, I definitely blamed the world. I blamed God. I blamed every family member I had, every person I knew in my life. It was always their fault, right? But when the realization hit me that there's no fault finding here, it's just your perception and how you reacted to somebody's action with a database of information that was your belief in the time that it happened. It was like, oh my gosh, the light bulbs came on. It's like, I can really do something about this. I can really change this. I can rewire my cells and my brain, and I can think different, and I can be different. Oh my gosh, okay, because I sure as the hell didn't like where I was, you know. And so I did. I was full speed ahead. Now, would I say do that to everybody? It's like, you know, work at the pace you're comfortable with. But if you don't start that, you're not going to get there. And I'm going to take a little bit of a commercial break here. I want to share something, you know, with the audience. Something that a friend of mine, Patricia Jo Grover, and I are putting together. She's an author, and I'm an author. And we both have books, right?
Yeah.
And so we decided to combine, because you see, I can do all the science behind everything, and she has like the applications of what to do's and everything. And so when we read each other's books, and it was like, oh my gosh, we decided that we would bring together a collaboration called The Mindset Shift, putting the pieces together. And it just came into fruition. So we're gonna launch this program in October of this year, just in time so that you can start clearing things away at the holiday seasons, and then be able to start with a clean slate, respond differently during those events, and then after the new year, when you put in those New Year's resolutions, you're going to have an impact like you've never had before. You know, so because when you can really understand why we do some of those things, Nicole, you know, why we had those beliefs and why we made those kind of reactions, and then knowing that we could really take charge of that and change it into something completely different. You know, instead of feeling the pain and the sadness, we could feel the joy and the excitement, right? So the mindset shift is to really starting to understand how you can take that journey from the mind to the heart by putting these pieces together of who you are and getting rid of the puzzle pieces that you're not. Man, that picture just gets clearer and clearer and clearer. So if any of you are interested in wanting to be a part of this journey, you can go to the bit.ly mindset journey, or you can even text just the word mindset to 888-527-7146, and that information is located right here below the picture. So write it down, make sure that you get there, and just because you're on the show here today, you're going to save $200 off the price. It's a 6-week course. Yeah, 6 weeks of fun and excitement, and there may be some tears shed, but I'm going to tell you there's going to be a lot more happy tears shedding than there are sad tears, because we don't work in that level, right? We just help you recognize that, get rid of it, so that you can have those happy tears and happy joys and everything else. You know, and then, so the course being 6 weeks long, you'll get my book and you'll get Patricia's book. It's usually, you know, regularly it's $4.97, but because you're listening today and you be one of the first 20 to jump on board, you're going to get it for $2.97. How cool is that?
That is great.
Yeah. So we want to see you all there to really start putting into action and activity what Nicole and I were just talking about, right?
Absolutely. You know, and I've read both your books. It's Patty, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I did read her book, and it is amazing, and I'm glad you're working together, because you sync very well with those programs that you have, and it takes time.
Right.
You know, you took 40 years, you took 50 years, you took 30 years to get to the point where you're at. It's going to take 4 to 6 weeks, and that's what I work with people too, and say, you know, hey, that program, take time for yourself. That's a healing program.
You know, and
You need somebody
key.
to hold your hand and be there for you.
Right? And you know, sometimes the best person to be there for you is yourself. Right? Because no matter which direction you turn, you're always going to be there. So learn how to become your best friend instead of your worst enemy. And that's a real good place to start right now. Give that some thought for today and say, where have I been being my worst enemy? And what can I do to help become my best friend? Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I can say, testimony, I have worked with Beverly, not just read her book, but she is, you know, she is my mentor, and she's a very special friend, and somebody that's very caring, but somebody that will hold your feet to the fire. So that's important. When you're working on yourself, you need the love and joy, and to recognize that, but you need to feel the emotion and the pain, but understand where you're at. So definitely. Right. Absolutely.
Right. And you know, it's so much easier to walk through that fire, as you put it, right, with someone right there beside you, holding you up, keeping you going, and saying, you can do this, you got this, I know you do, you got this, right, than it is to try to go there all alone, right?
Yeah. You need that cheerleader and somebody that can be detached from you and support you along that journey, and say, hey, this is your goal. Let me show you how to get there, but let me be with you. And I think that's where, for me, becoming a soulful coach, it's sharing with people that I can't just tell you all this and hand it to you and walk away from you.
Right.
I need to be there with you. I need to give you that energy, that support, that heartfelt love, and the tools, and make sure that you're working with them.
You know, and it goes back into really recognizing the things that you want to change, right? And sometimes that reflection within ourselves isn't there But, you know, look around. You know, you have a lot of time for thought these days, right? Because the busy world isn't so busy out there anymore. You know, so when you're in thought with yourself, you know, take a look at your journey. Take a look at people that you know. And start looking at those that you may have issues with. Or you say, you know, there's just something about that person. I just don't like them. Right? Okay, I get it. Truly, I get it. And then say to yourself, what really is it about them that I don't like? And write it down. Get it out of your head. Write it down. Right? So what is it that I don't like about them?
Yeah.
And then take a look at each one of those things and say, oh my gosh, that's kind of sort of like some of the stuff I don't like about myself. Right?
It's
So
a trigger.
it really is, because we are a reflection of one another. Good, bad, or indifferent. Good, bad, or indifferent. Right? So there's things about others that you see and it's like, oh my gosh, I want to be just like her. I want to be just like them. I want to do what they're doing, right? Because you admire them. You admire their accomplishments. You're like, wow, if they can do it, well, why can't I do it? Yes, I can. Okay, what do I need to do? You know, and you start conversing with them. And again, we are a reflection of those that are around us. Oof.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
absolutely.
a kick in the gut, I'll tell you. When you start looking at that, it's like, oh my gosh, you are that person that you hang out with. Oof.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you start to be upset or feel pain of the people that you're even if you're in a hate or fear mode with them, what is that lesson that you need to learn? Why is it triggering you? What are you
Yeah, what is it triggering, right?
And if you're in the same type of relationships, and I know that having been with some really, really low vibed people, let's just say, just some really, dated the bad guy, that was me, for a long time. He had to have that certain walk or talk, and it was, who's the common denominator in these relationships? Oh,
Oh, that be me.
oops.
Oops. That's right.
I'm that person, and what was
Yeah.
common about it? What is that lesson that is getting pushed in front of you? What is the universe or God and saying, hey, you didn't learn the lesson. You're going to keep repeating it over and over again. You're going to stay
Right.
within that same realm and that same dimension, repeating that same pattern. You'll never push into that next realm. And now the veil is thin and the energy is there to support you. Just walk through the veil, open
Right.
the curtains and walk through. But you need to see it. And you get so busy, and like you were talking about earlier, Beverly, when you're like, oh, I'm going to dive in and clear all this out. Well, once you clear that out and you get excited, you have to know when to stop and look around you and say, oh, okay, I made the changes. I can do this and I can be that better person and have that goal. But and the other thing is what tools and experience do I have? And when I teach people to develop their why and where they want to go,
Right.
it's what tools and experience do I have to not be the imposter, to make it to the coach that I want to be, or to make it to the career that I want, or to get back into dancing or singing or just playing with your kids and your family.
Right.
What do you have in your wheelhouse? Because you have years of experience. Pull it out. What mimics that? And that's what people forget too. Be that uprise to that, level up to that, and come through. Just open the curtains and you'll see that it's just a great Oz behind that, too.
Right.
And he's conducting it, and just, you know what? Once you open up and you go, oh, recognize, okay, now I can be the phoenix. Now I can rise up. Now I can be in the birthing because the divine feminine's coming through. So open up, let that birthing come and rebuild and become the new phoenix. Create yourself again.
Yeah.
And
Right
that's
there's
so
a key
important.
word.
Yeah.
Right there's that key word. Recreate yourself. Right. And it is a recreation, but it's actually the creation of who you are, who that spirit is. So what you did was you recreated something you weren't. So now you're going to go back to the pure creation. So we kind of got it backwards, but at the same time, right? So it's redefining, really redefining the spirit of who you are. And the more things that you start to eliminate that you recognize that really aren't yours, be sure to acknowledge that it's okay that was your truth, but you really got to acknowledge that it was the truth, or that little subconscious is going to just fight you tooth and nail to let go of it. So just say, all right, I recognize this is messed up, and I recognize that really isn't me in the spirit of who I want to be. And yes, I did make all these choices and whatever. Take that responsibility and say, subconscious, you got it right. You stored it in there. I acknowledged it. Yep, I made it my truth. Okay, fine. And now we're going to make something different our truth. Because it's like that little child that wants to just hold on to what you gave them. No, you can't have it. You can't have it, right? And then by saying, okay, yeah, you're right, then they lay it down. Right? They don't want it anymore because there's no battle. So why is it that we think we have to fight our way through life? Why is it everything has to be a battle? Because we're programmed. Well, if it ain't hard and you don't work hard and get out there and you don't do this and you don't go there and you don't do that, well, guess what? You're never going to succeed. Really?
Exactly. So true.
So
true.
So subconscious, hey, that's that challenge. I mean, when you think about it, you're in the womb. And you're fighting for survival in there, right? To make sure that there's something coming down that pipeline called your umbilical cord, or you're not going to survive to get out. And then when you came knocking at the door and said, let me out, I'm ready, let me out, I'm done, right? Because I don't want to be isolated in here anymore. I want freedom, right? And so out you come. There's your first challenge, to come down that birthing canal and come out, and then all of a sudden you come out and whoa, now you're blinded because there's this massive light and there's all these strange creatures around. What the hey is going on? Right?
Yeah.
And it never stops. It's like
you're redoing that now, and it's time to do it, but choose to do it your way.
Yes, bring yourself into the world that you want, how you're wanting to see it, how you're wanting to perceive it, those dreams that you had as a child. Bring those dreams to life because they're filled with your passion. They're filled with your truth. They're filled with the divine essence of your spirit, your soul. And that's what this awakening is all about. Now think about it, right? We're so busy being busy and polluting everything, polluting our minds, polluting our bodies, polluting the planet we're on, right? And what? The God source, the divine essence, spirit, universe, whatever you want to label it, says, stop, start all over. We ain't going down this path no more. We've been talking about awakening for, 25 years that I've heard about it, right? And I look at this time now as being the time to really awaken. It's like, knock, knock. Anybody in there? Well, let me see. Anybody in here? Whoa. Oh my gosh, I don't think I like it. I don't think I like what I see in there. What the hell's going on, right? And it's like, well, that's not really who I am.
Yeah.
And that's finding that identity, right? That identity. There is another way. There is another you. And guess what? You're the one who's leading the path. You're the one who's in charge. You're not in control.
Absolutely.
But you're in charge. You can either choose to do or not to do. Right? To do or not to do. To believe or not believe.
To be or not to be. That is the question.
Ooh, where have we heard that one before? Now she's turning into a philosopher. Oh my gosh, I created a monster.
Yes, you did. Everything I filed away in here is coming out. But it's the time. It's the time to pick which dimension do you want to be. So if you could live A life, B life, or C life, then there's thousands. We don't have time for all that, but which one do you want to choose? Pick it.
Yeah, because if you don't like the one you're in, make the one you want to be because you're in charge of your destiny. But you can't have the destiny you want if you keep doing the same thing you're doing.
So the insanity is coming back again, and that's where you'll
Right.
stay. Somebody else is choosing it, and that's you know, and that's where that polarity of the fear of the joy. You know, that
Right.
do you want to manifest the magic, or do you want to manifest at a lower level of that negative energy? And that's where that frequency that I like to talk about, the different frequencies. Do you want to stay at a low 200 on the chart, or you want to be at like a higher 700? And you
Right.
can't always be there at every moment, because sometimes you have to stop and recognize we are on this world, we have to live and be in this world, but how can you be in that spiritual realm and connect as above so below?
Right.
You have to find the connection, and this is where it's so important, where the divine energy is not the nastiness, and the fight. We don't have to fight anymore. We are women. We're glad to be women. We're happy to be women. And I had to realize that. I didn't like the way I looked, or the way I stood, or the clothes I wore. I didn't recognize myself. And it was, oh, okay, I love myself here, but I didn't understand. Had to stop to see the person had become outside, because I was wearing that old uh, hag suit, kind of like Snow White, where the witch is in that old, she's kind of got that old person. That wasn't me. So I wanted to wake up the light that was shining inside and decide who I wanted to be on the outside and love that person as well. But it also meant self-love and embracing my self-care.
Right.
How did I want to wear my hair, or did I want to wear jewelry, or who do I want to look like? And that's okay. That's okay to love that and be happy with it. Kind of like a little girl now dressing up. I can wear what I want. I can be in my PJs. I'm live from Las Vegas, in a bunker somewhere by Area 51, you know, and I can come at you from my home on Zoom and in Las Vegas, and just love that. And but
Right.
be beautiful in it. And I think that's the good thing about the balance. And we have forgotten the divine feminine in the love and the
Right.
mother and the creator and the birther, and loving that, and loving the ability to have that. And that, I think, is very much my right, and that's what I fight for me and for other people, is to recognize the balance,
And
and to love
that's,
that.
that's so beautiful in how you just phrased all that, because it is really the truth and the essence of the spirit, and finding that, and it is about rebirthing yourself. That's part of that rewiring and that grouping. And you mentioned several times the chakra system. A lot of people may not understand what the chakra system is, but it's energy ports. You have energy ports in your body, and there's 7 major energy ports where you can receive from the outside world that positive and negative force of energy that's necessary, right? And negative does not mean bad, right? It doesn't mean wrong. It's a charge. You need a positive and negative charge for the electricity to come on. You need a positive and negative charge for us to be here just talking with you today, right? So we need these charges in our physical body because we are an electrical being, right?
Mm.
That's your neurological system. So we have to pick that up in different ports of our body. But when we call them chakras, I think it's a Sanskrit word, right, for energy.
Hmm.
And so when you look at that, your lower chakras from, like, say, the spleen area down are basically your physical chakras, right? It's got your base or your root chakra. It's got your sacral. It's got your solar plexus, and these are your fight flight mechanisms. They're your poor little me pity party victim. They're the martyr role. They're your really things that happen here in this physical dimension. And once you move above that spleen and you come into that heart energy port, the heart is all about nurturing and nourishing, But it's all about the self. It's your self-love, your self-esteem, your self-worth, your self-value, your self-pride, yourself, everything. And when you don't speak that truth and you don't speak who you are, you swallow these things, it goes into the heart, and then it becomes damaging because you put yourself down, and then you keep swallowing, you suppress that heart, and then it smashes it down into those lower chakras. So it's the heart chakra that knows everything, because it's all there. Because you mentioned too, the brain, the heart is a brain. So your heart and your mind, because the mind works with the brain in your head, right? And the heart works with the brain in itself, right? So the heart-mind connection is connecting these two brains in the physical element. So that all-knowing heart thing, right, about the self and who you are and who you want to be and who you are not, and all that is stored in there. So getting and recognizing that about yourself will help you to start to fill your cup, to fill the inner workings of who your spirit really is. Because you want to be that loving, caring person. You want to be all of these things outside of yourself. That's impossible if you don't first have it inside of yourself. And that's what the awakening, right, is all about, is awaken that heart energy port, awaken that heart brain, and start really paying attention about the self. It is about the self. Whoever put that ish on there, you know, they like shouldn't have been on the planet, right? Because everything is selfish, ish. Now, you know, how many times have you heard someone say, "Oh yeah, maybe 10-ish," or maybe, "Oh, are you hungry? Yeah, ish." You know, it's like, what is this ish thing? I had never heard that until, you know, probably just within the last couple of years. But I'll tell you, the last 6 months or so, I've heard it more than ever. What is ish? Right?
You either are or you aren't.
That's, I guess, you know. So again, so finding that self, it's okay to put the ish on selfish and be selfish, because you're really not. You're filling your cup of who you are so that you can help others find their self and work with that awakening and really become a whole being in mind, in body, and in spirit, right? Huge. And that just, it just works in harmony when you're illuminating your soul, when you're tuned in, turned on, and you open up and you become the I am, and you become, I'm here, I'm open, I'm ready, you know, guide me, fill me up with good stuff. Don't just empty everything and just allow something else to be poured in there, Right.
you know. Don't let somebody else put the picture in there. But when you talk about the heart and loving and opening up, whether you're in a negative mode or you're clearing stuff up, even if you're in a good mode, you feel it in the rest of your body. You start to tingle because your heart pumps the blood, and the blood moves the cells, and the cells reproduce, and each little cell has a little memory, and that little memory multiplies into a little twin cell, and it's floating through your body. So whatever's in that, and you know, love or hate or whatever you want to put in there, put some good stuff in there, joy, happiness. Just imagine it pumping through your body and just waking up.
Energize that cell versus, you know, de-energizing or depleting it. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, and then working, like you were mentioning, you know, being able to speak your truth and just tell your story. You know, again, when things start awakening, when you come up out of those lower physical chakras and now you're moving up into the spiritual chakras, and that all-knowing, because we all know, we all have the answers. We just don't have the right questions sometimes. But that knowingness of really who you are, and then that fight to get that real you back, that identity of the soul essence of who you are. You know, I know when I first started realizing that, oh my gosh, my throat chakra worked overtime because it came out in so much anger. Oh my gosh, I just totally exploded anger. Thank goodness it was just me in the cornfields, because I was cutting loose, you know. And sometimes we have to do that. Primal scream can be so invigorating, right? And so releasing. And it's okay, but just recognize, when you do get in that anger that you want to release, try not to release it on someone that has no clue what you're even talking about, So it's okay to release it by yourself, Sometimes it's safer because then you have to try to explain it, and there's no explaining because you don't even know what the heck's going on. You just know that you've had enough, and boom, off you go. And we find ourselves doing that from time to time because the heart says, I've had enough, and the throat says, me too, boom, right? So, oh gosh, Nicole, this has been such a treat here today, just being able to become that expression and help people work on that awakening, because that's part of that being that best you every day, right? And gosh, if you guys really want to start taking this journey one step at a time, and we will make it a fun journey, go to the mind shift, putting those pieces together. Message us in the comments below, or just go to the bit.ly/mindset journey. Text mindset to 888-527-7146. Or if you want to work with Nicole, how can people reach you? How can they find where you are?
Well, I'm right here in the universe, but I'll come to your home via the cosmos and appear right there in your living room. Go to Illuminate Vegas. That website is www.illuminatevegas. They can find me on Oneness Talk Radio. My show's every Thursday at 9 a.m. And we're just going to talk about anything energy and how it affects you. And that's where they can find me. I'll be there.
Yeah, and right there is the little .com. And that is an I. It looks like 3 L's, but it's a capital I and 2 L's. So Illuminate Vegas, because you know what? She is definitely illuminating Vegas. So I had to leave somebody in the tracks because I left, right?
You did.
So the responsibility is yours, young lady.
I'm
Well,
ready.
look at there. She's taking it on. Yes.
I'll take the Hail Mary.
That's right. Oh, sometimes we need a Hail Mary, don't we? And a Glory Be. So, everyone, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Comment below. Let us know what you like. Let us know if you'd like to have Nicole back again. She is such a delight, such a treat. She always has great stuff to share. So, Nicole, thank you so much again for coming on at the Spirit of the Moment and being here at this special time. I love you very much, and go out there and continue doing that great work that you do.
Thank you, Beverly, for everything.
You're welcome.
Have a great
Namaste.
day.
Go out there, be that best you that you can be, because Nicole and I are going to be that best we that we can be. And we'll see you all on the next show.